Hi, I'm Ruby, and welcome to Ruby's Outdoor Rendezvous. On this edition, we're going on a winter bear den adventure with officials from the Pennsylvania Game Commission. Mark Turnip is the bear biologist for the PA Game Commission, and he does several presentations each winter about black bears here in our state. Before joining the PA Game Commission, Mark was a black bear and grizzly bear biologist for the Wyoming Game and Fish Department, so he knows a lot about these big creatures. Do you know how many bears live in Pennsylvania? Do you know how big they can get? Do you know how many cubs can be in a litter? Did you know that before 1979, there were only a few bears in all of western Pennsylvania? Well, Mark is going to answer these questions and tell us some other interesting facts about bears in Pennsylvania.
I think bears are one of the most fascinating species we have in the state. So they get big, they grow old. We've seen litters of cubs with as many as 5 cubs. We had one in Somerset County last year that had 6 cubs. We have bears in hibernation right now that haven't eaten or consumed any food or water since mid-November, and they've laid inside their same den without producing any waste and gave birth to cubs and nursed those cubs on a daily basis. When cubs are born, the male cubs almost always disperse out of the area that they're born in, but the female cubs almost never leave the area they're born in. You know, we had an effort in 1979, 1980, where we relocated female bears that were pregnant in the den. We took them out of their dens while they were still pregnant, and they came from the north central and the northeast part of the state, and we brought them to Somerset County. And we put them in artificial dens, and we let them give birth to their cubs in these artificial dens in these new areas, and they became the source for bears in this part of the state.
Mark said that the first ever bear transplants were released in Somerset County in 1979. Back then, there were hardly any bears around here. The bear biologist then was Gary Alt. He drove the bears from the Pocono Mountains in northeast PA to their new home in Somerset County. This bear and her cubs were already out of hibernation and were trapped and transported in this culvert trap. Gary met up with the officers, and once the trap door opened, the female took off like a racehorse. The 2 large cubs followed their moms, but just a little more slowly. The officers were able to keep track of the bear's movements by the radio collar on her neck and the special antenna. They used maps to pinpoint the bear's travels and home range. Today, it's common to see black bears near my home here in Somerset County. Now, Mark is going to tell us more.
We have this growing population, 15,000 bears, maybe 18,000 bears now. What's the advantages to having a large population of bears? Well, the 2 big ones are wildlife viewing and recreational hunting. You're going to have better hunting opportunities. You have an expanded area where you may have hunting opportunities. You have longer seasons. You have better success rates. And so letting your populations grow contributes to both of those values. Pennsylvania also leads the country in terms of number of bear hunters. We have about 140,000 bear hunters in our state. You think of other places where bear hunting is a popular destination. Maine is an example that a lot of people use. Maine only has 10,000 bear hunters. We got those guys beat by 130,000 bear hunters. And so it's very clear that Pennsylvania, because it has so many hunters participating in its season, that our hunting regulation strategies have to be different than all these other places. That's why we have a very short season. It's only 3 days long. It's why we don't allow use of bait. We don't allow the use of dogs, because with 140,000 bear hunters, our current success rates are about 3%, and they kill 20% of the population. So if the success rate was to go up, even by a small fraction, when you have that many hunters participating, then very quickly you'd start to harvest much larger than 20% of the population. When it gets right down to it though, hunting is really the only way we can control our bear population on the landscape. There really are no other mortality factors that can regulate bear populations like hunting can. 1 out of 5 bears in Pennsylvania will be harvested every year. And so you can imagine what the bear population would have looked like in the absence of harvest every year. Currently, we're harvesting about 3,000 to 3,500 bears annually.
Today, there are lots of bears in the mountains around here. In late winter, biologists will find a mother bear in her den by using a radio collar. They'll go right into the den, tranquilize the mother, then pull her and her cubs out of the den. They'll weigh them, tag them, and may even put a new radio collar on the mother. On this trip, many media people and local residents were invited to come and see the cute little cubs. Now we all had a big surprise. The biologist located the wrong den and female. They thought she had newborn cubs, but these were big yearlings. Mark told us that when they got to the den, the mother bear was tranquilized and the cubs were awake. The cubs jumped out of the den and ran away. The officer with the dart gun had to hunt for them. These are the darts that go into the special single-shot rifle. He shot 2 of the cubs with the darts. This was really exciting. The biologists and onlookers were amazed to see that these were big, 1-year-old cubs. Mark told us that it was unusual to work on yearlings, and this was a rare event for people to see. Lots of people gathered around the cubs to take pictures and video too. Mark and his assistants took their bears' vital signs, recorded their heart rates, and checked their pulse. They also listened to their lungs for any problems. They had to use caution because the cubs have claws that are really sharp. They also took their temperatures and then attached metal ear tags to the bears. The tags have a special ID number for each bear. With that number on it, you will know all about the bear's history and if it is ever trapped again or shot by a hunter years from now. You only have about 10 minutes to safely handle the bears before the drug wears off. Then it can be dangerous for the biologists and everyone else.
So let's just pick one up. Where's your guy?
Right here. He's right here.
Okay. We're headed back to the den.
Okay, you ready, Dave?
Yep.
Okay. One more. Can you tell us what we're going to do?
These are yearling cubs. They're a little over a year old at the moment. They would have been born January a year ago. There was actually 3 in the litter. We managed to tag 2 of them today, and we're about to return them to the den. This is all part of our population monitoring. These, now that we've ear tagged them, we can follow these bears into the future. If they show up in the harvest, we'll know that. They're permanently identified from this point forward. Okay. Roughly, we go to roughly 50 dens, and we end up tagging close to 100 bears doing this. Okay, well, we got to get these guys back. Yep, these are headed back to their mom.
Well, once back in the den with the mama bear, they'll stay in hibernation for another 2 weeks or so. Then they'll all come out to start eating real food again. The bears need to gain back some of the weight that they lost during Pennsylvania's long, cold winter. Well, that's our show. We hope you enjoyed watching, and be sure to join us next winter for another Bear Den adventure. Also, check out my website and subscribe today. And remember, at Ruby's Outdoor Rendezvous, we're on target for all seasons.